It's time we give back. Sow a seed and show someone where love's at. Even if you don't give a dime, give your heart and share your time. Help somebody else in life. Give back. Let's give back.
Welcome to this episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Gavan II. Tonight's episode is John Ramos II, coach, educator, civic leader. Here we go. Okay, John, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, brother.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. I've been following you through the years, and I am very impressed with a lot of the things that you're involved with, man. You would be somebody I consider a Renaissance man, somebody who's got multiple skills, multiple talents, and is doing all that you can to make the world a better place. And I think that's really, really important. Can you start out, John, by telling our audience something about yourself?
Well, first of all, I appreciate those kind words, coming from someone like you, who I always admire as a true Renaissance man, for you to say that about me, I really appreciate it.
All right.
In terms of my background and kind of how I got to where I am now, I grew up in Norwalk, Connecticut. My dad was the principal of Norwalk High when I was growing up. And I did not ever think that I would get involved in education whatsoever. I was a little rough around the edges, got in some trouble, was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, diagnosed with dyslexia. And those things really affected, how I engage with my learning and with school. Spent a lot of time as kind of a class clown type character. And if it wasn't for high school sports, really, I don't know where I would have ended up in terms of how I spent my time. So in a lot of ways, the high school sports, football, wrestling, lacrosse, those sports really, really helped keep me positive path. From Norwalk High, I did a postgraduate year, found out I was dyslexic my senior year. A postgraduate year at a school called Foreman, and just kind of learned some of those basic reading skills all over again. And that really put me in a situation where I was able to apply and get accepted to Morehouse College. Obviously, people know how awesome of a college Morehouse is, and coming from a place that was pretty diverse in Norwalk to HBCU, and really seeing the diversity of Blackness really changed my perspective on who I was and the pride I had in the color of my skin and the history of my people. So I really wanted to be the next Stuart Scott. Like that was my thing. I wanted to be a Sports Center guy. I wanted to be a journalist. I ended up taking a class, an African American Studies class, and I remember we really broke down the words of the Negro National Anthem, "Lift Every Voice and Sing." And I remember my teacher had us all standing up, singing it, and
one of my favorites.
Really breaking down line for line what the words meant. Mm-hmm. And I left the class, and I remember having tears in my eyes and calling my dad and thanking him again for supporting me financially to have the opportunity to go to Morehouse. Right. And I changed my major to African American Studies. Okay. And again, still not knowing that I would get involved in education. That still wasn't really the plan, Right. I just took classes. So you
took African American Studies. What was the plan at that time? Where did you think that would take you?
I didn't know.
Okay.
All I knew was that journalism, at least at that point in my mind, wasn't big enough for me.
Okay.
It wasn't substantial enough for me in terms of, what I was learning, right? Yeah. When I left the African American Studies class that very first day.
So when you say not substantial enough, so through that experience, what I'm hearing is that within yourself, you were feeling a greater calling than being a broadcaster. You saw yourself having more impact on your community.
Right.
Is that pretty much what I'm hearing?
That's, I would say I was younger, so I don't think I even thought that far through.
Okay.
I would say that it was the spark of passion is what changed it for me, right? And when I talk to youth now, I often tell them, people are having a hard time figuring out what they want to do with their lives, whatever the case may be. I think look less for the profession and more for the passion, because then it doesn't feel like work, right? So those classes
was that
I took,
passion sparked by the courses you were taking, the information, the things you were learning about our culture, about our history? Is that what sparked that passion?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It was to the point that when I took those classes, it didn't feel like work, right?
Wow.
When you first start college, obviously you have to take all the general ed classes, those Englishes, those maths, those sciences. When I was taking those African American studies classes, I could read it all day, I could write all the papers,
Wow.
and it didn't feel like it felt like I was improving myself more than I was, straining, strenuous work. You know
That's
what I
a
mean?
beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing if you can go to college and experience college in a way where you're feeling like it's feeding your soul.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's dope, man. That's dope.
So the next step after I graduated, I was able to come up back to Connecticut. Um, I don't know how much of the story y'all want to hear.
Well, the whole first segment is about you, right?
Yeah, I get it. So part of what drove me out of Atlanta was, again, even when I got to Morehouse, I was still a little, rough around the edges, some would say, right? And spending some time with some friends that weren't making some of the best choices. Morehouse has a very low graduation rate. If there's anything that's not great about Morehouse, it's the graduation rate, and it's like around 40%. So
That
my
right?
group of friends
Hold up.
didn't make it out of Morehouse.
Time out.
Yes, sir.
You said the graduation rate at Morehouse College is about 40%.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
They tell you day one. You've probably heard this before in other places, but they tell you day one, look to your left, look to your right. That person's not going to be there when you finish, right?
Wow.
And they meant it there. There's you're a man of Morehouse when you get there. When you graduate, you're a Morehouse man, and there's certain parameters of who you are that they want you to. There's a certain box they're trying to push you into before you get out of there.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, it's a positive. But for some of my friends, they couldn't handle it. And I don't say Morehouse is a great school that changed my life in a number of ways, but it's not for everyone.
Wow. I honestly, in all the years, I never realized how competitive it was. Um, just being able to be a part of that 40% is a major achievement in life, and it has to be a major confidence booster to your self-esteem and to your sense of self-worth. Being able to have be part of that special group. That's an amazing thing, man.
I think that that idea is something that's kind of been at the crux of my passions for a long time, is that the survivor's guilt, or why is it that I've been able to get to this point, and other brothers who I know were smarter than me, worked harder than me, or whatever the case may be, weren't able to, right? And I think that's what fuels me in terms of giving back, in terms of trying to provide others with opportunities, because if it wasn't for adults in my life who had the means, had the education to support me in times of struggle, if it wasn't for just God blessing me at a certain moment in time, I'm literally, I'm talking not just figuratively, I'm talking about bullets flying past my head. You know what I mean? I've been in really, really sticky situations at times that I've kind of put myself in.
Right.
And I shouldn't, in a lot of ways, I shouldn't be here, right? My best friend at Morehouse was 1,000 times smarter than me, and he ended up getting murdered out there. And that's
Georgia.
Excuse me, in Atlanta, yeah.
Wow.
Right off campus.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow.
Yeah. And it's that moment really changed my life in a number of ways. At that time, I was bartending, making money, meeting ladies, having a great time. And when he passed, it made me focus on going back to school and getting the degree. And then I've been kind of really living for him and others.
What is his name? What is his name?
His name is Jameson Bush.
Jameson Bush.
Death is now I guess I could fast forward my story a little bit. You know, I've been working in Bridgeport for a number of years, Bridgeport, Connecticut. And for those who don't know, it's the urban environment, a lot of violence, a lot of murders in the city. And I mean, there's a lot of beautiful things too, a lot of beautiful people, a lot of hardworking people,
Of course.
a lot of youngsters who have amazing potential.
Of course.
But the cloud of death is immense. And
Brother, we're gonna take
go ahead.
a brief public
Mhm.
service announcement break,
All right.
and then we'll be back with your story, man. I just want to say thank you for your transparency and your candidness. 'Cause,
Always.
this has been obviously from the heart, man, and
Yes,
I really appreciate this. Me as a host, and I'm sure our audience will as well.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right back.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back to this segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. My name is Hosea James Gavan, and we are with John Ramos. And John is giving us some nuggets, valuable information, sharing his background, and it's been a delight learning more about John. I've known him several years, but some of the things I'm just learning for the first time. John, let's talk about your transition from Morehouse College into your professional life, what you're doing today.
Awesome. So my first job out of Morehouse, I was able to work for a program called Gear Up, which was based out of Yale. And we're going into Bridgeport, Connecticut, to middle schools in that area. And I was teaching anger management, time management, things of that nature. And shortly thereafter, I decided that I wanted to, I had a lot of free time after school. I lived right by Harding High School at the time, and I decided I wanted to start coaching. So I applied for a job and started coaching football and eventually wrestling at Harding High School.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized through that experience that I wanted to go back to get my master's degree and really help these students. I mean, the young men that I met at Harding High were facing some most difficult circumstances you can imagine in terms of poverty and violence,
right.
But the upbeat nature of these students,
right.
The work ethic, the stick-to-itiveness, those things really inspired me. I mean, when I talk about the violence, I mean, we had games canceled because there were gunshots in the crowd, right?
Really? Wow.
Right. So I'm talking about as big of a level as you could think of, and these kids still came back the next day ready to work hard, ready to put all that aside. So I must say that those students in particular really taught me work ethic.
Right.
And through that experience, I decided to go back to be a school counselor up in University of Massachusetts is where I went to do that. And with the whole goal of coming back to Bridgeport and working with those students in that role.
Right.
So
that's amazing, man. So we share that experience. As you know, I just recently retired as a guidance counselor to New York City Department of Education. Certainly, if you have a passion for young people and you want to really try to help them do some problem solving, that's a fantastic field to get into. Knowing, you talked about in the previous segment, your passion for our people. And I think it's real important for particularly young men to see brothers like yourself, brothers like myself, in these positions, because children become what they see, So when they see brothers like yourself coaching, guidance counselor, and now you're an assistant principal, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so talk to us about your current role.
I think the kids really respected seeing me with my kids. I bring them to the field. I always say, whenever I was at community events, I would have my daughter strapped to my chest, speaking at board meetings.
Is that right?
And I think the kids really, really appreciated seeing that and it changed the perspective on what a father should look like,
Yeah.
So I really value that. But yes, so after being a school counselor for a number of years, I had the opportunity to become the director of counseling at Harding High School at the place I coached. And then most recently, I had an opportunity now to become assistant principal at Stratford. at elementary school, second grade through sixth grade. Very different group of kids in terms of age group, but racial socioeconomic demographics is really similar.
Right.
And I feel very much at home. My corny jokes go over a lot better with the elementary kids than they did with the high school kids.
They worship you,
So
man.
interesting.
As soon as you walk through the door, they worship you. And I spent the lion's share of my career as an educator in elementary school, and I applaud Black men that, because it seems from what I can remember, as an educator, throughout the course of my career, most of the men that I saw were either in middle school or in high school. But the Black men that are in the positions on the elementary school level, you guys, we are molding these young men and women, right? And so it's real important for young people, particularly young Black boys and brown boys, to see brothers like yourself in those roles. So it becomes real. We talk about having our young people begin to set goals, but you have to make it tangible for them. And when they see men like yourself in these positions, it helps them to visualize and identify with the reality of a success model. So I applaud you, brother, in everything that you've done up to this point. You went from director of a program to counselor to director of a counseling program. In the meantime, you were coaching 2 different sports, football, wrestling, and now you're assistant principal. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So that's, I think that lands along the same lines of what I've been trying to say earlier, was that, the passion is more important than the profession in my mind. In terms of when I'm trying to help kids figure out what they want to do, it's about finding the passion, because then it won't feel like work, right? I don't know, 5 years from now, I could be a principal, I could be heading to be a superintendent, I could be head coach of a college football team, whatever I do, I know it's going to be based around working with Black and brown kids and helping them succeed.
Right.
That's what I'm passionate about.
Right.
Right. So whatever opportunities to do more of that, help more people, do it on a bigger scale. That's what I'm looking forward to trying to do. So
right. Now, you mentioned earlier in the program that your dad was an educator, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure he had a significant impact on you as an educator. And how do you see how his influence may have shaped the manner in which you approach educating our young people today?
Well, whenever I tell people I'm in education, or whenever people see I'm in education, they're like, "Oh, you're following your dad's footsteps, chip off the old block," that kind of thing, right? And my first reaction is a little negative. It's like, I got my own path, right? And it's true. My dad, he went to Brown University, got married young, very, very different situation. I went to Morehouse College, which is a HBCU.
Yeah.
I crossed Alpha fraternity, the best fraternity in the whole wide world.
Would you say that again? Say it again.
And those things.
Say it again.
Alpha fraternity.
Oh,
the best fraternity in the whole wide world.
Alpha Phi Alpha.
That's it.
So
those things. And I coach sports. Coaching is obviously a big part of who I am. So those are major distinctions in terms of our career path that I think are really different.
Right.
I say all that to say, I dress like them, look like them, sound like them.
Right.
Everything I know about education and how to run a building and be a leader, how to be a quality person with morals, to lead with my gut and understanding that putting kids first is most important. All of those things I get from my dad.
Amen.
He's an amazing person, my best friend. Dr. Ramos, he was a former superintendent in Bridgeport. He was a former superintendent in Watertown, Connecticut. I mean, he's just a phenomenal person, and I'm blessed. I've mentioned a couple times now that, I'm blessed and recognize my privilege, and I'm absolutely privileged to have a father in my life.
Hold that thought, brother.
Like the one that I have in my life.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a brief public service announcement, and we'll be right back.
I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to this final segment of Ignite, Empower, Transform. We are here again with John Ramos. John has given us some really good insight in terms of his background, in terms of his interest. We're going to close out this show with John sharing with us a bit about a nonprofit organization that he created that I was really impressed with when he was telling me about different aspects of their fundraising capabilities and just the kind of network that he's been able to pull together. I was quite impressed. John, would you share with us, tell us about your nonprofit organization?
So first, I didn't found it. I am just the co-chairman. So I did not found it. It was founded by Tyrone Elliott, very good people in our community. But they had found it. It's called Adversity to Prosperity, 501c3.
Say that one more time.
Adversity to Prosperity.
Okay.
And they created it, and it was kind of dormant for a little while. And basically what happened was the city, due to budget cuts, cut the wrestling program at Harding. And the year before that, we had...
What city is that, my brother?
That's again in Bridgeport.
Okay.
And the place I've been coaching for the past 13 years.
Okay.
So when they cut the wrestling program, we had just had a back-to-back state champion. Okay. So we were like, we got a state champion coming out of the hood in Bridgeport. Right. And you're going to cut the program, that just didn't make sense to us, right? So, and we knew that wrestling was, it's kind of a niche sport, but it was getting kids out. Right. It was getting kids opportunities to grow up and be fine men. So we said, no, it can't be no, it has to be how. That's one of our biggest quotes. And we decided to start fundraising. What we quickly bumped into is that people did not trust in Bridgeport municipalities and trust that their money would go to the right place if they donated to the city. So we linked up with another coach of ours named Tyrone, who had already had this 501c3 structure in place, which again is Adversity to Prosperity. And ever since then, we've been saving the program. We've saved the program, which costs about $35,000 to $40,000 a year to run. We've saved that for the past 5 years. Along with that, we give out scholarships yearly. We give out, last year we gave out $10,000 in scholarships. We raised money for other sports, including football, volleyball, track, girls track. So last year we brought in about $200,000 just from ground word of mouth, talking to people, making it happen.
You know what that means, Jack? Time out. I got to ask, brother. Did you just say you guys kind of just raised $200,000? Yeah. That's amazing, brother. You don't just kind of just raise $200,000, man. That's a powerful network of people who are committed to this vision. Obviously, you have some very resourceful people within your network, and it's impressive, man. Because in these times where we see that it's apparent that as a nation, municipal governments, state governments are really going to have to lean on organizations like yours to help to compensate for things that we just can't do. I mean, the tax revenues have not been able to generate the revenue that they need to sustain some of the programs that you're talking about. So it's essential that organizations understand what you guys have done, and if we don't do those types of things as a nation, our community and our young people in particular are really going to suffer. So my hat's off to you, brothers and sisters.
I appreciate that. And I mean, the work, it's really been, Tyrone Elliott and his wife Thea, and then the head coach of both football and wrestling at Harding, Coach Eddie Santiago, and myself. It's really just been us. Right. We've built a small board, but at the end of the day, in terms of raising the money, it's been us. and we kind of have a competition with each other to see who could raise more and kind of crack on each other when the other one's not holding up their end of the bargain and that kind of thing. We got little, you know, nicknames for ourselves. I call myself J Peso, you know, because I'm trying to get that money for these kids, you know.
That's the sign.
So, you know, that's basically what it turns out to be. You know, in Bridgeport, Connecticut in particular, it's a rough area surrounded by wealth. The towns around us have quite a bit of wealth. You know, they don't look like us in most cases, but they are willing to give back. I think right now is a time in people's life where they're feeling some type of moral pull in one direction or another. And I think organizations like Adversity to Prosperity give people an outlet that they might not have had otherwise, and they could see where their money's going and see who's being benefited from it. So it's hard work. You know, I think that we could bring in millions if all of us were full time. That's all we did. I honestly think Adversity to Prosperity could bring in millions for the youth in Bridgeport.
So I know
bandwidth isn't there.
So it seems like in so many ways, through your professional occupation, you're impacting our young people. Through your nonprofit organization, you're impacting young people. But you also have a special role with the Fairfield County chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. I know you're over our Project Alpha program, and you want to share just a little bit. We have a couple minutes and can just talk about that. Maybe not just a couple minutes. If you give us the short 60-second version of what.
Well, I am the director of educational activities for the Fairfield County chapter Zeta Phi Lambda, but I'm also the director of educational activities for ONECA, the organization of New England chapters of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Congratulations on that promotion. I didn't know that.
Yeah, thank you. It's just more work, right? But again, impact. It's all about impact, right? You know, if you're good at something, the goal is to give it to more people. Right. So anyway, I'm blessed that my brothers have appreciated the leadership I've put forth in terms of Project Alpha and in terms of go to high school, go to college projects. They've been extremely supportive. You mentioned earlier how important it is for youth to see people that look like them.
No question.
Coming into their building, speaking to them, spending that time. And brothers have been more than willing to do that, and I really appreciate it. We've developed mentoring programs with high school kids. We're doing read alouds now with younger kids, and once COVID's over, we'll really make sure that the chapters are in these schools and really connecting with youth because, like you said, they need to see us. They need to see what's possible.
Well, John, I just want to say, man, I've enjoyed this particular episode because I've learned more about you than I thought I knew you, but now I really know you. Impressive young brother. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm so proud of you, and thank you for all that you've done, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for the platform, and thank you for the continued support over the years. I truly do appreciate it, man. And you know, together we can really make an impact. I mean, it's an uphill battle for our youth. You know, I see it every day, but they need us. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for joining us. And remember, if it's in your heart, do your part. Today's help equals tomorrow's hope. I love our youth. Power to the people.